What if everything you've been taught about success is wrong? What if the endless chase for money, status, and approval isn't just exhausting, it's missing the point entirely? The ancient Stoics had a radical idea. True success isn't about what the world gives you, it's about who you become. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That's the heart of Stoicism, redefining success from the inside out. Instead of measuring yourself by external wins, you focus on inner virtue, courage, discipline, and clarity. So why does this 2,000-year-old philosophy feel more urgent than ever? Because we're drowning in comparison, burnout, and empty achievements. Today, we're breaking free. This video isn't just about thinking differently, it's about acting differently. You'll discover how Stoic practices can help you challenge society's definition of success, build unshakable confidence, and take assertive control of your life. No fluff, no vague inspiration, just practical tools to live with purpose, ready to rewrite the rules. Let's begin. Society tells us success looks a certain way. The corner office, the luxury car, the Instagram perfect life. But the Stoics would call that a dangerous illusion. Seneca put it best, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. For Stoics, real wealth isn't measured in bank accounts but in self-mastery. While the world obsesses over external rewards, they focused on something unshakable, inner virtue. Courage in the face of fear, wisdom when others panic, justice even when no one's watching. That's the core of their philosophy. Success isn't what you acquire, but who you become. Take a modern entrepreneur who turns down a shady deal to protect their integrity. They might lose short-term profit, but they gain something far more valuable, self-respect. The Stoics called things like money and fame indifference, not inherently bad, but meaningless unless used virtuously. So here's a question to sit with. When you strip away the applause and the accolades, what's left? Is your definition of success borrowed from others or built on something deeper? The choice is yours. Epictetus cut through the noise of success culture with one razor-sharp principle. Some things are within our power while others are not. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, a game-changing mindset that flips modern ambition on its head. See, society trains us to obsess over outcomes, getting the promotion, hitting viral fame, forcing life to go our way. But Stoicism asks a rebellious question. What if you stopped fighting reality and instead mastered your response to it? Imagine two colleagues passed over for a promotion. One spirals into resentment, blaming the boss, the system, even luck. The other audits what they can control, sharpening their skills, seeking feedback, choosing their attitude. That's the Stoic edge. Here's how to put it into practice today. Grab paper and draw two columns. Label one within my control, the other not in my control. Now think of a current goal. Maybe it's landing clients or improving a relationship. List every factor involved, your effort, your preparation, your mindset on one side, market conditions, others' opinions, past mistakes on the other. Suddenly, clarity hits. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It's won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." So ask yourself brutally, where are you exhausting yourself against immovable walls? The weather won't change because you yell at clouds, but your choice to carry an umbrella, that's power. Success starts the moment you stop wrestling the uncontrollable and start owning your agency. What if you could turn anxiety into fuel? That's the power of Premeditatio Malorum, the Stoic practice of negative visualization. Far from pessimism, it's a ruthless exercise in preparedness. Picture this: before making a big decision, a Stoic wouldn't just hope for the best. They'd mentally walk through the worst-case scenarios. Why? Because when you name your fears, they lose their grip. Marcus Aurelius drilled this into his daily routine, writing, "The obstacle is the way, not a barrier but part of the path. Take the merchant ships of ancient Rome." A Stoic captain wouldn't just pray for calm seas, he'd visualize storms, pirates, delays. By rehearsing adversity, he'd already solved problems before they arose. Fast forward to today, an entrepreneur pitching investors might obsess over perfect answers, but the Stoic approach spend equal time anticipating tough questions, technical hiccups, even rejection. When you've already lived the disaster in your mind, fear transforms into focus. Here's the twist: modern psychology backs this. Studies show that people who mentally simulate challenges perform better under pressure. So next time you face a risk, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Now, how would you adapt? That's the secret. Success isn't about avoiding failure, it's about being unshakable when it comes. How much bolder would your choices be if setbacks lost their power to paralyze you? Most people spend their lives fighting reality, raging against traffic jams, resenting unfair bosses, cursing bad breaks. But Stoics like Epictetus proposed something radical. Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens, and you will be happy. Enter Amor Fati, Latin for love of fate. Nietzsche later captured its power. My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. This isn't passive resignation, it's active rebellion against victimhood. Society trains us to complain about politics, the economy, even the weather. But Stoicism turns obstacles into fuel. Picture an architect whose dream project gets cancelled. The average person might wallow in frustration. The Stoic, they'd ask, what skills can I sharpen while waiting for the next opportunity? What hidden doors might this closed window reveal? History's full of examples: Beethoven composing masterpieces as he went deaf, Mandela transforming prison into a crucible for leadership. The point isn't to pretend hardship doesn't hurt, it's to refuse to let pain define you. So here's your challenge: look at a recent setback, a missed promotion, a failed project, a rejection. Now ask, if this had to happen for my growth, what's it teaching me? Maybe patience, maybe resilience, maybe redirection. Amaphati whispers, your greatest power lies not in changing circumstances, but in choosing what they make you. We live in a world obsessed with comfort, smart thermostats, one-click deliveries, endless shortcuts promising easier living. But the Stoics saw danger in this endless pursuit of ease. Musonius Rufus, the Roman philosopher who trained Epictetus, put it bluntly: how can someone become courageous if they only seek what's comfortable? His answer: voluntary discomfort, deliberately choosing hardship to build resilience. This wasn't about masochism, it was training for life's inevitable storms. Picture a Stoic in ancient Rome. While others indulged in lavish feasts, they'd practice fasting. Not because food was bad, but to prove to themselves, I can endure hunger and still choose wisely. Fast forward to today's entrepreneurs who wake up early for cold showers or grueling workouts before tackling their workday. They're not punishing themselves, they're rewiring their brains to handle stress before it's forced upon them. Because here's the truth: comfort zones don't stay cozy, they shrink. Every avoided challenge makes the next one feel more impossible. But small, voluntary acts of discomfort, skipping the snooze button, taking the difficult conversation head-on, fasting from distractions, these are like push-ups for your resilience muscle. So here's your challenge: what comfort habit will you disrupt this week? Maybe it's turning off notifications for deep work, or swapping an hour of scrolling for an hour of learning. The goal isn't suffering, it's sovereignty, as Musonius taught. If you accomplish something good with hard work, the labor passes quickly, but the good endures. The most successful people aren't those who avoid discomfort. They're the ones who have learned to thrive within it. Ever feel like you're caught in an endless race for titles, promotions, or social approval, only to wonder why it still leaves you empty? The Stoics had a counterintuitive practice called the view from above, a mental shift that shrinks life's petty competitions down to size. Picture Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, staring at the night sky and writing, "Look at everything as if seeing it for the first or last time." That cosmic perspective stripped away illusions. From space, what does a corner office or luxury car really amount to? A speck. Yet we drain our energy fighting for these symbols, mistaking them for meaning. Here's how it works. Close your eyes. Imagine floating above your city, then higher, seeing continents, oceans, the planet itself. Now zoom out further. That promotion you're obsessing over, the colleague who stole credit, the envy you carry, how significant are they against the backdrop of time? History's full of forgotten kings and buried gold. This isn't about nihilism, it's about liberation. A modern example, someone stuck in a toxic workplace, hustling for a manager's praise. From ground level, it feels life or death, but from the cosmic view, that office is a fleeting stage. The real question isn't, how do I win here, but what kind of human am I becoming here? Status fades, character doesn't. So next time societal pressures choke you, ask, will this matter in 5 years, in 50? To the universe, the higher your vantage point, the clearer true success becomes, not outshining others, but aligning with something timeless. Most of us live as if we're immortal, endlessly postponing dreams, mending relationships later, waiting for the perfect moment to start. But the Stoics had a practice that shatters this illusion, Memento Mori. Latin for remember you must die. Far from morbid, this was their secret weapon for living with fierce intentionality. Seneca drilled it home. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. We waste years scrolling, complaining, chasing trivial wins, only to gasp in hindsight at how little time we actually owned. Contrast that with a modern CEO who survived a near-fatal accident. Overnight, their priorities crystallized: less boardroom politics, more mentoring; less chasing competitors, more creating legacy. That's the power of mortality's mirror. It strips away the noise. Procrastination isn't laziness, it's denial. We tell ourselves, I'll write that book after retirement, or I'll repair that friendship when things calm down, as if time owes us favors. But Stoics wake each morning asking, is this how I'd spend my final day? Not to incite panic, but to ignite purpose. So here's the question: if tomorrow were your last day, what unfinished business would haunt you? The conversation you avoided, the passion you sidelined, the love you withheld. Mortality doesn't make life meaningless, it makes our choices matter. Every later is a gamble. Every someday is theft from your present self. The clock's ticking, but here's the good news: you're still here, and that means you still get to choose. There's a dangerous myth that Stoicism means silently enduring everything, keeping your head down while others take advantage. But here's what most people miss: Stoicism isn't about passivity, it's about power. Epictetus, the former slave who became a philosopher, put it plainly: if someone tries to hand you a cup of poison, you don't drink it just to avoid conflict. Stoic assertiveness is the art of standing your ground without losing your calm. Imagine your boss dumps an unreasonable deadline on you again, the passive response. Grumble quietly and burn the midnight oil, the reactive response. Blow up and risk your job, but the Stoic response, a measured, I understand the urgency, but to deliver quality work, I'll need until Friday. Here's why: no anger, no apology, just unshakable respect for your own limits. This isn't arrogance, it's virtue in action. Courage isn't just facing external threats, it's confronting the internal fear of disappointing others. Think of a nurse who refuses unsafe patient loads, not with emotion but with facts. For their safety and mine, this is the standard. That's Stoic assertiveness, the fusion of wisdom and backbone. So ask yourself, where are you confusing acceptance with avoidance, silence with strength? Every time you swallow a no that should be spoken, you're not practicing patience, you're surrendering agency. The Stoics didn't endure oppression, they defined their lines, your turn. History remembers John D. Rockefeller not for his wealth, but for how he handled crisis, and that's pure Stoicism in action. When economic panics hit, other industrialists panicked. Rockefeller, he called them opportunities to buy. That's the razor's edge between those crushed by obstacles and those who use them as stepping stones. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Like fire purifying gold, friction reveals what's real." Take Rockefeller's infamous 1914 Ludlow massacre backlash. While competitors scrambled to save reputations, he turned PR disaster into structural reform, creating employee grievance systems that became industry standards. No denial, no blame, just how do we transform this? That's the Stoic alchemy, pressure into progress. Modern parallels, the startup that loses funding but pivots to bootstrapping, discovering lean efficiency no investor could have taught. The writer whose rejection letters expose weak spots, forging a stronger voice. Even nature knows this secret. Forest fires clear dead wood so new growth can breathe. Your obstacles aren't roadblocks, they're the curriculum. So here's the pivot point. What's one challenge you're currently resenting that could actually be training you? A difficult client sharpening your patience, a financial squeeze revealing creative solutions. Marcus warned, the obstacle is not the thing, it's your attitude about the thing. That's the mental flip. Name one obstacle you'll stop fighting and start leveraging this month, not someday. Now, because every barrier holds the blueprint for your next breakthrough. We live in an age where likes, shares, and follower counts are treated like currency, a world obsessed with external validation. But the Stoics saw this trap coming 2,000 years ago. Epictetus warned, if you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Do not wish to seem knowledgeable. Translation, stop performing for applause. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. When you tie your self-worth to others' opinions, you hand them the keys to your emotional cage. Take the story of a modern painter who spent years chasing gallery acclaim, only to burn out from constant rejection. Then one day she stopped asking, will this sell? And started asking, does this express what I need to say? The irony, her most authentic work created in that spirit of indifference to praise became her breakthrough. That's the Stoic paradox. Detachment from outcomes often leads to better outcomes, not because the universe rewards virtue, but because freedom from others' judgments unleashes pure creativity. Think about your own life. How many hours have you wasted tailoring your image for social media, meetings, or family expectations? Now imagine reclaiming that energy. The Stoics didn't say praise was evil, they said it was irrelevant, like weather nice when sunny, but not a compass for your worth. So here's the litmus test. Next time you feel that itch for validation, pause. Ask, would I still do this if no one ever found out? The answer tells you everything, because real art, whether it's your work, your parenting, or your character, isn't made for an audience. It's made because not making it would betray who you are. That's the quiet rebellion of Stoic self-assessment, creating not to be seen but to be true. In a world that glorifies hustle and constant noise, the simple act of putting pen to paper becomes an act of quiet defiance. The Stoics didn't just journal, they weaponized self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled an empire, still made time each morning and night to confront himself on parchment. His Meditations wasn't some polished memoir, it was raw, unfiltered dialogue with his own flaws and aspirations. Picture him by candlelight, scribbling lines like, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That's the heart of Stoic journaling, not recording events but auditing your character. Here's how to steal his method. Start with 3 brutal questions every evening. First, where did I let externals dictate my peace today? Maybe you lost hours fuming over a delayed flight or a colleague's snide remark. Second, what virtue did I neglect when tested? Did fear mask itself as caution? Did laziness dress up as waiting for the right moment? Third, the hardest, what truth am I avoiding writing down? That's where the gold is, the promotion you didn't earn because you cut corners, the relationship you're clinging to out of comfort, not respect. Modern life runs on distraction, endless scrolling, shallow busyness because silence forces us to face what we're running from. But here's the twist, journaling isn't self-punishment, it's liberation. A CEO client of mine once admitted his nightly logs revealed a pattern. He'd blame market conditions for failures but credit himself for wins. That blind spot cost millions until ink exposed it. Your journal is the one place you can't gaslight yourself. So tonight, before sleep, ask the question Marcus asked himself. What's in my control that I've been handing over to chaos? The page won't lie, and that honesty, day after day, is how you rewrite your life script, one unflinching sentence at a time. Hustle culture screams that productivity means juggling 10 tasks at once, multi-tasking your way to burnout while calling it ambition. But Marcus Aurelius, running an empire, wrote this radical counter. Concentrate every minute on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. Not 10 things. 1. The Stoics didn't just preach presence, they engineered their days around it. Take the modern tech CEO who starts each morning with what he calls the hour of no phone, no emails, no meetings. Just deep work on his most critical project. His secret, he treats time like a finite currency, investing it instead of spending it mindlessly. Seneca warned, "You're living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you." We leak hours on trivial notifications while pretending we'll catch up later. But here's the Stoic twist. Time management isn't about efficiency, it's about integrity. Every distraction you surrender to is a betrayal of your potential. That meeting you half listened through while checking messages, a lie to everyone in the room. The novel you've been meaning to write for years, postponed not by lack of time, but by 1,000 petty escapes from the discomfort of creation. So here's the knife-edge question. What's your biggest distraction masquerading as necessity? Social media, networking, endless email checks, the myth that busyness equals worth. Strip away the excuses and you'll find the truth. Guarding your attention isn't selfish, it's sacred. Because when you master your minutes, you don't just get more done. You become someone who can be trusted with a life. Diogenes lived in a barrel not out of poverty, but to prove a point. When Alexander the Great offered him anything he desired, the philosopher simply replied, "Step aside, you're blocking my sunlight." That moment captures the essence of Stoic desire discipline, realizing how little we truly need to be free. Epictetus took it further. Freedom isn't secured by filling our pockets, but by emptying our wants. Yet here we are, drowning in a culture that equates happiness with accumulation, bigger homes, newer gadgets, trendier clothes. The Stoics called this the tyranny of more, where every purchase becomes a chain. Consider the modern minimalist who cuts their wardrobe to 30 items. At first, it feels like sacrifice until they discover the mental space reclaimed from decision fatigue. Or the executive who trades a luxury car for a bike commute, trading status symbols for mornings filled with crisp air and clear thinking. These aren't acts of deprivation, but liberation from invisible masters. So here's the piercing question. What desire are you feeding that's actually feeding on you? Is it the dopamine hit of online shopping, the dread of being seen with last year's phone? That gym membership bought for appearance over health? Consumerism thrives by convincing us cravings are needs, but when you examine each want under Stoic light, asking, does this serve my virtue or my vanity? You'll find most shackles were self-imposed. The barrel wasn't Diogenes' limit, it was his launch pad. Your turn. What sunlight could you finally see if you stopped standing in your own way? Power isn't about titles or corner offices, it's about responsibility. The Stoics redefined leadership as service long before it became a buzzword. Take Cato the Younger, the Roman senator who refused to bend to Julius Caesar's corruption, even when it cost him everything. While others traded principles for political favors, Cato's integrity became legendary, not because he sought fame, but because he couldn't live with himself otherwise. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire at its peak, wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." That's the paradox of Stoic leadership. The less you demand from others, the more they choose to follow. Contrast that with today's toxic bosses, the kind who rule through fear, take credit for team wins, and see empathy as weakness. Their authority is borrowed, propped up by position rather than respect. But Stoic leaders, they understand that real influence starts with self-governance. A modern executive who mentors junior employees without expecting loyalty points. A teacher who stays late not for praise, but because growth can't be rushed. Here's the litmus test. If no one ever applauded your leadership, if promotions and accolades disappeared, would your actions stay the same? That's the difference between authority stamped on a business card and the kind etched into character. Because when you lead first for an audience, you're just performing. But when you lead as if no one's watching, you become someone worth following. Here's how to stop your thoughts from hijacking your peace. Stoic cognitive distancing. Epictetus laid it out plainly. It's not what happens to you, but how you interpret it that matters. That's the key. Your mind isn't a mirror reflecting reality. It's a storyteller spinning narratives. And the moment you label those stories as mere impressions, not truth, you take back control. Picture this: co-workers whispering about layoffs. The average person spirals into anxiety, imagining worst-case scenarios. But the Stoic, they'd pause and say, this is just an impression. My mind is interpreting uncertainty as catastrophe. That mental space between event and reaction. That's where your power lies. Try this exercise next time office gossip starts. Imagine holding each rumor in your hand like a piece of paper. Now mentally write across it. This is a thought, not a fact. Suddenly, the emotional charge weakens, because here's the truth. Most of our suffering comes from over-identifying with passing mental weather. Anger isn't just anger, it's I'm the kind of person who's been wronged. Anxiety isn't just nerves, it's this confirms I'm not good enough. So here's your challenge today. What belief are you fusing with? Maybe it's I must please everyone, or failure means I'm inadequate. Spot that label in your mind, then do the unthinkable, peel it off. Epictetus didn't say ignore reality. He said interrogate your interpretations. That email wasn't disrespect, it was brief. That silence isn't rejection, it's just quiet. The more you practice seeing thoughts as visitors, not tenants, the lighter your mental load becomes, and that's when you discover the prison door was never locked. You were just gripping the bars. Seneca saw through the madness of our modern hustle long before smartphones flooded our pockets with endless tasks. He wrote, being busy is a form of laziness, lazy thinking, indiscriminate action. Think about that for a second. How many of your calendar slots are filled with motion disguised as progress? Meetings that should have been emails, projects that lost purpose months ago, commitments made out of guilt rather than intent. This is what the Stoics called poverty of attention, spreading yourself so thin that nothing gets your best. Now consider a Silicon Valley founder who slashed his company's meeting time by 70%. His rule: if it doesn't require my unique value, the answer's no. No to brainstorming sessions he wouldn't lead. No to coffee chats that lacked clear agendas. Radical, maybe, but within months his team's output doubled, not from working harder, but from guarding their focus like sacred ground. Here's the uncomfortable truth: every yes you give to something trivial is a no to something vital. That networking event you dread, it's stealing hours from your neglected manuscript. The committee role you took from obligation, it's draining energy from your family. Stoicism teaches that agency isn't about having unlimited options, it's about courageously eliminating the wrong ones. So here's your challenge: what's one obligation you'll stop shouldering this week? Not because you're lazy, but because you're strategic. Maybe it's unsubscribing from newsletters that clutter your mind. Maybe it's delegating tasks that don't demand your brilliance. The art of subtraction isn't loss, it's making space for what actually moves you forward. As Seneca proved 2,000 years ago, the richest lives aren't built by adding, but by discerning. Most friendship in modern life has been reduced to networking, a transactional exchange of favors, contacts, and social leverage. But the Stoics saw companionship as something far more sacred. Seneca put it bluntly: friendship always benefits, love sometimes injures. He wasn't talking about casual connections or LinkedIn alliances. Real friendship to a Stoic was a mirror for virtue, a relationship where both parties sharpen each other's character. Think of two blacksmiths hammering the same blade. Sparks fly, metal bends, but what emerges is stronger than either could forge alone. Contrast that with today's "what can you do for me?" mindset relationships measured by clout rather than candor. Here's how to spot the difference: a transactional friend celebrates your wins but vanishes during setbacks. A Stoic friend hands you the unvarnished truth, even when it stings, because your growth matters more than their comfort. Take the ancient story of Scipio and Laelius. When Scipio faced a life-altering decision, Laelius didn't flatter him with empty praise. He asked, "Which choice will let you sleep with a clear conscience?" That's the loyalty test, not who laughs at your jokes or fills your contact list, but who holds you accountable to your highest self. So here's the question to sit with tonight: who in your circle asks the hard questions? Who refuses to let you play small? Purge the parasites who only stick around for sunshine. The Stoics knew true friends are the ones who weather storms with you, not because they gain anything, but because your virtue is their shared mission. And that kind of bond, it's rarer than gold and more valuable. Anger feels like fire in the veins, a righteous burn that demands action. But the Stoics saw it differently, not as fuel but as surrender. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." In a world addicted to outrage, where social media rewards performative fury and politicians profit from division, Stoicism offers a radical alternative: the pause. Not suppression, not explosion, the space between trigger and response where reason reclaims the wheel. Picture a seasoned diplomat navigating an international crisis. While pundits scream for immediate retaliation, she resists the dopamine hit of public anger. Instead, she asks, what does principled action look like once the heat cools? That's anger alchemy, transforming raw emotion into measured response. Here's how to practice it today. Next time someone cuts you off in traffic or snubs you in a meeting, don't react. Count to 10, not to delay your anger, but to interrogate it. Ask, is this worth my peace? Will lashing out improve anything, or am I just feeding the beast of my own pride? History remembers the leaders who kept their heads when others lost theirs. The CEO who stays composed during a shareholder revolt, addressing concerns with facts rather than fury. The parent who models restraint when a teenager hurls insults, knowing storms pass faster when you don't fan the winds. Every slight is a test, not of your patience but of your priorities. So here's your challenge. What minor injustice can you meet with silence today? Not because you're weak, but because you've chosen where to spend your energy. As Seneca warned, no plague has cost the human race more than anger. The next time your blood boils, remember, the strongest response often looks like stillness. What if luxury was the very thing holding you back from real freedom? The Stoics practiced something called poverty, training deliberate periods of living with less to prove to themselves that happiness wasn't tied to material comforts. Even John D. Rockefeller, the richest man of his era, understood this. At the height of his wealth, he famously took only a $1 annual salary. Not because he needed the money, but to remind himself that true security came from discipline, not digits in a bank account. Musonius Rufus put it bluntly, how can we develop courage if we only seek what's soft and comfortable? His answer was voluntary simplicity, not as punishment but as power. Think of it like a muscle. The more you practice needing less, the stronger your resilience becomes. Take the modern executive who swaps her luxury sedan for public transit 1 week each month. At first, it's inconvenient until she notices the unexpected benefits. Time to read, people watching that sparks creative ideas, the quiet pride of self-sufficiency. Or the family who commits to a no-spend weekend, discovering that board games and park picnics create deeper connections than any shopping spree. These aren't acts of deprivation, they're rehearsals for freedom. Because here's the truth, every dependency you create on gourmet coffee, premium subscriptions, constant convenience is a tiny chain, and the more chains you accept, the less you remember how to move without them. So here's your challenge. Pick one luxury you'll voluntarily quit for the next 7 days. Maybe it's your daily takeout latte, your ride-share habit, or even your smartphone's dopamine traps. The goal isn't to suffer, but to rediscover something priceless, the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're not owned by your comforts. As Musonius taught, practice needing little and you'll always have enough. Because real wealth isn't about what you can afford, it's about what you can walk away from. Every choice you make is a vote for the person you're becoming, but how often do you pause to ask who's actually winning that election? The Stoics had a simple yet ruthless filter for decisions, the virtue test, not what's profitable or what's easy, but what aligns with courage, wisdom, and justice. Take Cato the Younger, the Roman senator who was offered a massive bribe to overlook corruption. While others rationalized compromise as playing the game, Cato's response was legendary. He didn't just refuse the money, he made sure the entire Senate witnessed him tossing the coins into the street. That wasn't theatrics, it was a masterclass in integrity. Epictetus framed it perfectly. First decide who you want to be, then do what you must do. Most of us get that backward, letting circumstances dictate our character instead of our character dictating our choices. Imagine a modern executive facing a similar crossroads. They could fudge numbers to please shareholders or risk short-term backlash by telling the truth. The virtue test cuts through the noise. Not, will this boost our stock price, but will this make us worthy of respect? Here's the practice. Next time you're torn between options, picture your wisest self, the version of you untouched by fear, peer pressure, or greed. What would that person choose? Not the path of least resistance, but the one that leaves you unashamed to meet your own eyes in the mirror. Because here's the paradox the Stoics understood. Decisions made for virtue often lead to better outcomes anyway, not because the universe rewards goodness, but because clarity of purpose attracts opportunity. A business built on honesty earns loyalty. A relationship grounded in respect deepens over time. So ask yourself honestly, where have you been outsourcing your choices to external rewards? And what would change if your only metric was whether an action makes you prouder, stronger, more fully human? That's the real cost of every decision, not what you gain or lose, but who you become in the process. The modern world confuses noise with productivity, mistaking constant connection for meaning. But Seneca, one of Rome's greatest Stoic minds, guarded his mornings like sacred ground, hours spent in deliberate solitude, writing, "Retire into yourself as much as possible." He wasn't advocating escapism. He was building what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel, a mental fortress no external chaos could breach. Picture this: before dawn, with the city still asleep, Seneca would sit with only his thoughts, untangling the knots of the previous day and setting intentions for the next. No scrolls, no servants, no distractions, just the raw material of his own mind. That daily ritual wasn't luxury, it was survival. Because here's the truth: if you don't control your attention, the world will happily hijack it. Try this today, the 5-minute stillness practice. Set a timer, sit upright, eyes closed, and focus only on your breath. When thoughts about emails or obligations arise, and they will gently label them distractions and return to your breathing. No judgment, no force, just presence. It's harder than it sounds, but in that quiet, something remarkable happens. The mental clutter settles, priorities sharpen. That project you've been avoiding, the difficult conversation you've postponed, the stillness brings clarity, because silence doesn't just empty the mind, it reveals what's been buried beneath the noise. So tonight, as you turn out the light, ask yourself, what truth might emerge if you gave it just 5 minutes of undivided attention tomorrow? The answer could change everything. Imagine spending years carefully curating your image, polishing your LinkedIn profile, agonizing over Instagram captions, rehearsing your elevator pitch, only to realize you've built a prison out of pixels and perceptions. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, would sit alone and remind himself, "You are just a soul carrying around a corpse, brutal, maybe liberating." Absolutely, this is the Stoic practice of death to ego, a deliberate dismantling of the personas we cling to for validation. Take the A-list actor who, at the height of fame, was spotted scrubbing graffiti off his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. When a fan asked why he'd do something so menial, he simply said, "Because it's my name." No entourage, no PR stunt, just a man refusing to be owned by his own mythology. That's the power of Marcus Dust meditation. When you regularly confront the fleeting nature of existence, performance becomes pointless. Try it now. Close your eyes and visualize your hands aging, wrinkling, then turning to bone, then dust. That body you obsess over in the mirror, temporary. That title on your business card. Meaningless to the universe, this isn't nihilism, it's emancipation. Because when you stop seeing yourself as a brand and start seeing yourself as a brief spark in cosmic time, something miraculous happens. You stop pandering. No more tailoring opinions for applause, no more grinding to impress strangers, just raw, unfiltered integrity. So here's the knife-edge question. What mask are you wearing that's starting to fuse with your skin? The tough leader who can't admit doubt, the perpetual helper who never asks for anything, the intellectual who fears saying, "I don't know," peel it off. The world doesn't need another perfectly packaged persona. It needs real humans, flaws and all. After all, dust doesn't care about its reputation, and neither should you. Cleans, one of Stoicism's founding teachers, didn't just lecture about philosophy. He funded his studies by hauling water at night, carrying jugs until his hands cracked. When students mocked his labor, he replied, "My body grows stronger while my mind stays sharp." That's Stoic fitness in its purest form, movement as mental training, not vanity. Modern gym culture obsesses over mirror muscles and perfect angles, but the ancients saw something deeper, every rep as a rep against weakness of will. Take a champion boxer's pre-dawn routine. While others sleep, she's already pounding the heavy bag, not because she craves trophies, but because she knows the discipline of enduring burn translates to enduring life's punches. Her mantra, pain is just the voice of growth yelling. This isn't masochism, it's mastery. The Stoics didn't lift stones to sculpt six-packs, they did it to prove to themselves, I can endure. So here's the shift. Next time you lace up your sneakers or unroll your yoga mat, reframe the workout. Ask not, how many calories will this burn, but what kind of person will this hardship forge? Maybe it's holding plank for 10 extra seconds to practice perseverance, or choosing the heavier kettlebell to confront discomfort head-on. Even the rhythm of your breath can become meditation, inhaling focus, exhaling distractions. Because true strength isn't measured in kilos or miles, but in the quiet certainty that when life demands more, you've already proven you can give it. Your body isn't just a project to perfect, it's the anvil where your character gets hammered into shape. We've all heard the inspirational slogans, dream big and never give up, but what if that relentlessly positive mindset is setting you up for failure? The Stoics had a wiser approach, the reverse clause. Every goal, every plan, every ambition should quietly carry two words, fate permitting. Epictetus put it plainly, do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your plans will go smoothly. That's not pessimism, it's profound flexibility. Picture a tech startup betting everything on one app feature, convinced it'll go viral. When user feedback exposes flaws, their rigid attachment turns panic into paralysis. But the Stoic founder, they've already rehearsed plan B, C, and D, not as backup failures, but as branches of the same tree. Their pitch deck literally includes slides labeled, if the market rejects X, we pivot to Y. That's the reverse clause in action. We'll dominate the education sector, fate permitting. The magic lies in the mental shift. Toxic positivity demands reality conform to your expectations. Stoicism trains you to conform your expectations to reality. So here's your challenge tonight. Grab the most rigid plan in your life right now. That 5-year career track, the relationship timeline, even tomorrow's overpacked schedule. Now edit it like a Stoic scribe. Add fate permitting in invisible ink. Suddenly, obstacles aren't roadblocks, they're redirections. That cancelled conference becomes time to refine your product. The rejected loan forces a leaner, smarter business model. The breakup, space for a truer connection to emerge. The reverse clause doesn't weaken resolve, it weaponizes adaptability. Because the greatest plans aren't those that never change, but those that can't be broken by change. Seneca never faced the ping of a notification or the endless scroll of social media, but his warning rings truer today than ever. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. The average person unlocks their phone over 100 times a day, each swipe a tiny surrender of attention, each like a hit of cheap dopamine masquerading as connection. This is the modern battleground for focus, and Stoicism offers an ancient antidote, digital intentionality. Take the novelist who finishes 3 books a year in an era of constant distraction. Her secret, a ritual borrowed from the Stoics. Every morning, she physically locks her router in a timed safe for 4 hours. No emails, no updates, just the raw work of creation. At first, the withdrawal is brutal, phantom urges to check messages, the itch of FOMO. But by week 2, something shifts, clarity returns, sentences flow. She rediscovers what Seneca called the luxury of a mind undisturbed. The lesson isn't that technology is evil, it's that every app, every device should serve your purpose, not hijack it. So here's the challenge. Pick one digital input that's been draining more than it gives. Maybe it's the news app that leaves you angry but uninformed, the podcast that's just background noise, or even group texts that demand constant replies. Commit to a 30-day break, not as deprivation but as an experiment in sovereignty. Notice what fills the void: deeper conversations, uninterrupted reading, the quiet that sparks original thought. Because here's the paradox the Stoics knew: sometimes to gain control, you must first surrender the illusion of it. The writer who locks her router isn't escaping reality, she's reclaiming the focus to shape it. Your attention is the last currency no one can print more of. Spend it like a Stoic, with ruthless discernment. The most successful people don't wait for New Year's resolutions to course correct, they build reflection into their rhythm. Marcus Aurelius modeled this with his nightly journals, writing, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." But the Stoics took it further than daily check-ins. They practiced what we might call a Stoic sabbatical, a deliberate pause every season to audit it, not just what they'd accomplished, but who they'd become. Picture a ship's captain not waiting for a storm to check the compass. Every 90 days, they'd drop anchor in calm waters, recalibrate their bearings, and ask, is this still the right course? Here's how to steal their method. First, block out a half-day quarterly, no work, no distractions. Bring 3 questions. 1. Where did I confuse motion with progress? Maybe you filled your calendar with meetings but avoided the hard creative work that actually moves the needle. 2. What virtue did I neglect when tested? Did convenience trump courage? Did people-pleasing drown out your integrity? 3. The most unsettling, what habit is masquerading as helpful while secretly holding me back? That productive podcast habit might just be procrastination in headphones. The morning scroll you defend as staying informed could be draining your focus before the day begins. Modern life runs on autopilot unless we intervene. A CEO client of mine discovered his quarterly audit revealed a pattern. He'd outsourced all joy to someday, deferring hobbies, travel, even quiet mornings until some mythical, less busy future. The wake-up call: he hadn't read a book for pleasure in 3 years despite owning a library. So here's the challenge: when was the last time you stopped long enough to notice what's no longer working? Not with guilt, but with the curiosity of a scientist studying their own behavior. Because growth isn't about adding more, it's about having the guts to subtract what's expired. As Marcus wrote, the universe is change, life is understanding. Your next chapter starts the moment you close the last one with clear eyes. There's a practice hospice nurses know well the art of noticing last times. The final sip of morning coffee savored without realizing it's the last. The unremarkable Tuesday evening walk that won't come again. What if you didn't have to wait until life's final chapters to appreciate these ordinary miracles? Seneca warned, we are not given a short life, but we make it short by wasting time. Not just in grand moments, but in the 1,000 tiny gifts we bulldoze through on autopilot. A nurse once shared how her dying patients never lamented missing fame or fortune. Their regrets were startlingly simple: not hearing rain patter against the window one more time. Not feeling the weight of a grandchild asleep on their chest. The irony, these were experiences they'd rushed past for decades. Here's where Stoicism's last time meditation flips the script. Today, as you tie your shoes or stir your tea, pause. Ask yourself, what if this were the final time? Not to spiral into morbidity, but to break the trance of taking life for granted. That yawn your dog does when you scratch their favorite spot. Finite, the way your partner hums off-key while doing dishes, ephemeral. Even the frustration of traffic becomes precious when framed against eternity. Proof you're alive to feel anything at all. The Stoics didn't just preach gratitude, they engineered rituals to jolt themselves awake. One client of mine started dedicating his first shower minute to pure presence, feeling the water's heat, noticing steam on the mirror, fully inhabiting a ritual he'd performed mindlessly for 30 years. It's like discovering a hidden room in my own life, he said. So here's your invitation. Before sunset, pick one mundane act: peeling an orange, lacing your shoes, even sighing at your inbox, and perform it as if it's sacred. Because here's the secret the dying know and the living forget: it always was. Legacy isn't built in the flash of a viral moment, it's forged in the quiet choices only you witness. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire that spanned continents, wrote his most profound words not for the public but for himself. What we do now echoes in eternity. Contrast that with today's influencer economy, where success is measured in views, followers, and fleeting trends. The Stoics would call this a tragic miscalculation. Because while algorithms reward what's popular now, history remembers what matters across generations. Consider the anonymous donor who's funded hundreds of college scholarships, never appearing in press releases or accepting awards. Their name won't trend on social media, but their impact ripples through decades as students become teachers, doctors, and innovators. That's the Stoic paradox: the less you perform virtue, the more authentically it resonates. Viral fame is like shouting into a canyon, loud echoes that fade quickly. Legacy is planting trees whose shade you'll never sit under. So here's the uncomfortable mirror to hold up. When your social media accounts are eventually forgotten, when the likes stop and the notifications go silent, what footprints will remain? Not the polished highlight reel, but the unrecorded moments, the patience you showed a struggling coworker, the honest feedback that changed a friend's trajectory. The small kindnesses no camera captured. Marcus didn't journal for clout. He wrote to hold himself accountable to ideals bigger than applause. Your legacy isn't what's celebrated, it's what continues to serve when no one's watching. The real test isn't whether people talk about you, but whether their lives are better because you existed. So skip the performance, plant the seeds. The harvest doesn't need your name on it to nourish the future. What society calls rebellion, the Stoics called common sense. While the modern world chases validation through screens and measures worth in likes, Stoicism offers a quiet revolution, one where your compass points inward, not toward the crowd's applause. Think about it. We're trained to outsource our self-worth to promotions, compliments, follower count, as if someone else's opinion could ever define us. But Epictetus, the philosopher who began life in chains, revealed the ultimate paradox. No man is free who is not master of himself. Real freedom isn't found in accumulating more, it's in needing less. That's the radical heart of Stoic rebellion. While influencers peddle the myth that happiness lies in the next purchase or viral moment, you're practicing something far more subversive: the art of being unmoved by what you can't control. Picture a corporate lawyer walking away from a 7-figure salary to teach philosophy in public schools. To Wall Street, it's insanity. To a Stoic, it's coherence, aligning actions with values no matter the cost. Here's the challenge history leaves at your feet. Pick one modern norm to disrupt this week. Maybe it's ignoring the metrics on your latest post to create something only you understand. Or saying no to a draining social obligation to protect your focus. Even something as simple as leaving your phone at home during lunch, reclaiming solitude in a world terrified of silence. This isn't about grand gestures, it's about daily defiance, because every time you choose character over convenience, integrity over imitation, you're not just rejecting the status quo, you're proving there's a stronger way to live. The world will call it rebellion. You'll know it's simply coming home to yourself. At the heart of Stoicism lies a quiet revolution, not against the world, but against the way we've been taught to navigate it. While society hands out scripts for success: climb the ladder, chase the spotlight, stockpile achievements, the Stoics offer something far more radical: the freedom to define meaning on your own terms. This isn't about rejecting ambition, it's about refining it. Control what you can, release what you can't. Build resilience not as armor against life, but as flexibility within it. And above all, stay ruthlessly present because the future is uncertain and the past is unchangeable. But this moment, this breath, this is where your power lies. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, left us with a command sharper than any motivational quote. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, no more theorizing, no more waiting for permission. The tools are in your hands. Tonight, try this. Open a journal and write down just one practice from this video that struck a chord. Was it Amor Fati, loving your fate even when it stings, the daily audit of what's truly in your control? Or maybe the cosmic perspective shrinking petty worries to dust? Whatever it is, commit to living it tomorrow, not perfectly but persistently, because the measure of Stoicism isn't in what you know. It's in who you become when the screen fades to black. Now tell me in the comments which practice felt like it was written just for you. Your answer might be the nudge someone else needs to start their own rebellion.